Before we get to the story, I'd like to say thanks so much for visiting my new channel. I'm going to be uploading cosmic horror related stories every single day. So if that sounds good, please drop a like and don't forget to subscribe. It means a lot, especially when just getting started. I hope you enjoy the story. I've been an air traffic controller for 18 years. I guide aircraft through some of the busiest airspace in the world, tracking dozens of planes at once, making split-second decisions that keep thousands of people alive every day. I'm trained to notice everything and panic at nothing. I've handled engine failures, medical emergencies, near misses that would make most people's hearts stop. My name is Corinne Yates. I'm 43 years old and I work at Chicago O'Hare International Airport. I've seen a lot in this job. Storms that grounded hundreds of flights, equipment failures that required manual coordination, situations that tested every skill I had. But I'd never seen the sky flicker. It was a Tuesday afternoon in March, peak traffic, the kind of controlled chaos I thrived in. I was managing arrivals on the East Flow, tracking a dozen aircraft on approach, my eyes moving between radar screens and the windows that looked out over the runways. That's when it happened. The light changed. Not like a cloud passing over the sun. Something deeper, something wrong. The sky stuttered, like a video feed losing signal for a fraction of a second. The blue shifted to something else, a color I don't have a name for, and then snapped back. It lasted less than a second. I blinked, thinking I'd imagined it. That fatigue or eye strain had played a trick on me. Then the radio erupted. Tower, United 447, did you see that? What the hell was that? O'Hare approach, Delta 892. We just had a visual anomaly and instrument fluctuation. Requesting confirmation. Tower, this is American 1156. Our autopilot just went haywire for a second. Anyone else experiencing issues? The calls kept coming. Every aircraft in my sector had seen it, felt it, experienced something wrong with the sky. Within minutes, reports were flooding in from across the region, then across the country, then across the world. The flicker was global. Within an hour, the FAA grounded all domestic flights. International aviation authorities followed. The sky looked normal again, blue and clear and unremarkable, but no one knew what had happened. And until they did, nothing was going to fly. I sat at my station as the chaos unfolded around me, remembering what I'd seen in that fraction of a second. The sky hadn't just changed color. It had seemed to have depth, layers, as if I was looking through multiple panes of glass instead of open atmosphere. For that brief moment, I saw structure where there shouldn't be any. I didn't mention this to anyone. It sounded crazy, and I wasn't sure I trusted my own perception. But the image stayed with me, lodged in my mind like a splinter I couldn't remove. Days passed with no flights. The economic impact was staggering. Billions lost. Supply chains disrupted. Passengers stranded around the world. Scientists scrambled to explain what had happened. Solar flare, atmospheric anomaly, mass hallucination. None of the explanations fit. The flicker had affected light itself, not just perception. Cameras and sensors recorded the event, confirming it was real, but the data defied interpretation. Off-duty and restless, I started researching on my own. I found forums, social media posts, first-hand accounts from around the world. The descriptions varied, but certain elements were consistent. The sense of layers, of depth, of seeing something behind the sky. Some people described colors that don't exist, geometries that hurt to remember. Others reported that for that brief moment, the stars were visible in daylight, but they were in the wrong positions. I connected with a man named Dr. Alan Vickers, an atmospheric physicist at a university downtown. He'd been studying the data from the flicker, and what he'd found troubled him deeply. The light during the event didn't behave like normal sunlight, he explained when we met. It showed signs of refraction, diffraction, interference patterns, as if it had passed through something before reaching Earth. Passed through what? Dr. Vickers hesitated. Some kind of medium, a field, a membrane, something between Earth and the rest of the universe. Something that's been filtering light for so long we never knew it existed. And the flicker? A momentary failure in that medium. A gap, a stutter, a glitch. For that fraction of a second, we saw unfiltered light from the universe. He paused, and it looked nothing like what we're used to seeing. The implications of Dr. Vickers' theory were staggering. If something had been filtering light to Earth, then everything we'd ever observed about the universe had been mediated. The color of the sun, the positions of stars, the appearance of other planets, all of it filtered through a layer we didn't know was there. Our astronomy, our physics, our entire understanding of cosmology, all based on processed information. We've been looking at a painting, Dr. Vickers said, and thinking it was a window. The data from the flicker suggested that the unfiltered universe looked fundamentally different. Stars weren't where we thought they were. Some might not exist at all, while others that we'd never seen were actually there. The sun's light, unfiltered, had a different spectrum. Colors our eyes weren't designed to process. Space itself might have properties we'd never detected, hidden behind the constant filtering. The medium wasn't just changing how things looked. It was creating a consistent, coherent illusion of what the universe was. I asked the obvious question. Why would something filter the light reaching Earth? Dr. Vickers had theories. Maybe the filter protected us. Unfiltered sunlight might be harmful in ways we don't understand. Maybe the filter hid us, made Earth appear different to outside observers than it actually was. Maybe the filter was part of a larger system, doing something we couldn't comprehend. Or maybe it was placed here deliberately, by something intelligent, for reasons we couldn't guess. Further analysis revealed something troubling. The medium wasn't random or natural. It showed signs of structure, of intentional construction. It was too uniform, too precisely calibrated, too perfectly suited to creating a specific illusion. Whatever the medium was, it had been built. Something created a filter around Earth, or around the solar system, or around this entire region of space, and had been maintaining it for longer than humans had existed. 2 weeks after the first event, the sky flickered again. This time, it lasted nearly 2 full seconds. The effect was more pronounced. Colors shifted dramatically. Shadows behaved wrong. The sun appeared to change position in the sky. People screamed in the streets. Car accidents spiked as drivers were momentarily blinded. I was outside when it happened. I saw the layers again, clearer this time. The sky had depth, like looking into an ocean from above. I saw colors I had no names for, geometries that made my eyes water. and I saw something else. A shape, vast and dark, positioned where the sun should be. Not the sun, something else. Something that the filter made look like the sun. Then the flicker ended, and the familiar sky returned, and I was left standing on the sidewalk, trembling. I told Dr. Vickers what I'd seen. He was skeptical at first. Individual perception during the flicker varied wildly. But when he compared my account to others, a pattern emerged. Many observers reported seeing something wrong with the sun during the flicker. The accounts didn't match exactly, different sizes, different shapes, but they agreed that what they saw wasn't a star. The sun might be a projection, Dr. Vickers said, his voice barely steady. A light source created by the filter to simulate a star that isn't there. If the sun was a projection, what was actually providing light and heat to Earth? The shape I'd seen? Was that the real source? What was it? Why did it need to be hidden? And what would happen if the filter failed completely? The flickers began occurring more often, every few days, then daily. Each one lasted a little longer, revealed a little more. The filter was failing. The illusion was breaking down. A month after the first event, a flicker lasted nearly 10 seconds, long enough for cameras to capture detailed images, long enough for observers to really see. The photographs that emerged changed everything. The sky behind the filter was nothing like the sky we knew. It was crowded, full of objects, structures, things that didn't belong in empty space. Some were clearly artificial, geometric shapes, impossibly regular, hanging in the void. Others were harder to categorize, organic-looking masses, fields of color that might be energy or matter or something else entirely. The universe beyond the filter wasn't empty. It was full, cluttered, busy with things we'd never seen. The photographs confirmed what I'd seen. What we called the sun was not a star. It was a construct, a light-emitting structure of artificial origin, clearly manufactured, clearly not a natural phenomenon. The warmth and light that had sustained Earth for billions of years came from something built, not born. Some photographs captured something else. In the corners of the frame, at the edges of perception, there were observers, not ships or probes, things that might be alive, might be machines, might be something in between. They were positioned around Earth, arranged in patterns that suggested surveillance. They'd been watching us, maybe for the entire history of life on this planet. And now that the filter was failing, we could finally see them watching. Dr. Vickers and his colleagues developed a theory about the filter's purpose. Earth existed in a region of space that was densely populated, not empty at all. The filter was placed here to isolate Earth, to create an environment where life could develop without interference. The artificial sun provided consistent, stable light. The visual filter hid the crowded universe beyond. Earth had been a terrarium, a controlled environment, a protected zone. We'd been cultivated or studied or preserved, kept separate from whatever existed outside the bubble. If Earth was a terrarium, someone had built it and had been maintaining it. The observers in the photographs might be them, checking on their project, monitoring its development. They'd been watching humanity's entire history, from the first tools to the space program. They saw us reach for the stars without knowing that the stars we saw weren't real. And now their system was failing, and the garden was about to be exposed to the wider universe. But Dr. Vickers had another theory, one he was afraid to voice. What if Earth isn't special because it was chosen for protection? He asked. What if Earth is special because it was the reason the filter was built in the first place? I didn't understand at first. What if something about Earth, something about life here, about humanity, required isolation, not for our protection, but for everyone else's? The filter might be a quarantine, not a preserve. Something on Earth might be dangerous to the wider universe. The observers might not be gardeners, they might be wardens. And now the prison walls were crumbling. I thought about every alien invasion story I'd ever seen, every first contact scenario. They always assumed we were the victims, the underdogs, the prey. What if we weren't? What if something about humanity, something we didn't even recognize in ourselves, was the threat? What if the filter existed because the universe was afraid of us? 3 months after the first flicker, the failures became constant. The sky strobed between filtered and unfiltered states, a nauseating oscillation between realities. Some regions experienced longer periods of unfiltered sky. Others seemed more stable. The patchwork collapse created chaos, areas of normalcy next to areas of constant strangeness. Humanity adapted because that's what we do. Sunglasses that blocked the strange colors became mandatory. Indoor spaces were preferred. People learned to recognize the onset of a flicker and avert their eyes. A new normal emerged, built around the failing illusion. Then the observers responded. For the first time, they appeared to react. They began moving, slowly, deliberately, converging toward Earth. Not threatening movements, not aggressive. More like maintenance workers approaching a broken machine. The filter was their technology. Maybe they were coming to repair it. Or maybe they were coming to see what happened when it failed completely. Or maybe they were coming for whatever the filter was built to contain. The converging observers reached the edge of Earth's atmosphere. They were vast, each one larger than a city, hanging in the unfiltered sky like monuments. They didn't communicate, didn't respond to signals, didn't seem to register human activity. They simply positioned themselves around the planet and waited. Then the sky flickered one last time and didn't return. The filter had collapsed completely. The illusion of the blue sky, the yellow sun, the familiar stars, all gone. What remained was the real universe, crowded, strange, full of light that hurt and colors that didn't exist. The artificial sun still shone, but without the filter softening its output. The light was harsh, revealing, showing Earth in its true context. We saw our planet as it really was, a sphere in a busy region of space, surrounded by structures and observers, suspended in a universe nothing like the one we'd imagined. The observers began doing something to the atmosphere, not harmful, but detectable. They were rebuilding the filter, I realized, repairing the illusion, restoring the walls, putting the terrarium back together. The prison, if that's what it was, would be sealed again, and we'd return to seeing the false sky, the projected sun, the empty universe that was never real. A debate erupted across what remained of global communication. Should we want the filter repaired? The false sky was comforting, but it was a lie. The real universe was terrifying, but it was true. Did we want to see, even if what we saw was horrible? Or did we want to return to the illusion, knowing now that it was an illusion? I found myself arguing for truth. The false sky was beautiful, but it kept us ignorant. We built our science, our religions, our entire understanding of existence on a lie. Even if the truth was terrible, I'd rather know. At least then we could start understanding what we really were, where we really lived, what was really watching us. But the decision was made for us. The observers didn't ask humanity's preference. The filter was rebuilt, slowly, layer by layer, the false sky returning. The harsh light softened. The strange colors faded. The crowded universe disappeared behind the new illusion. Within weeks, the sky looked normal again. Blue, clear, empty. The sun yellow and warm. The stars in their familiar positions. All of it fake. All of it rebuilt. The cage restored. Flights resumed. Life continued. The world returned to something like normality. But nothing was really the same. Everyone knew now that the sky was a projection. The sun was artificial. The universe was full of things we couldn't see. The knowledge didn't change daily life, but it haunted the background of every moment. Looking up had a different feeling now. I went back to my station, guiding aircraft through restored airspace. The sky looked normal through the tower windows, blue, bright, familiar. But I knew what was behind it. I knew the sun was a machine, the stars were lies. The observers were still there watching. I did my job anyway, because what else could I do? The filter might fail again. Everyone knew that. Whatever broke once could break again. Next time, the observers might not repair it. Next time, we might be left in the real universe permanently. Or next time, they might decide the experiment was over. I didn't know what happened then. No one did. The hardest part wasn't the fear. It was the normalcy. I still guided planes through the sky. I still watched sunsets from the tower. I still lived my life as if the world made sense. But every time I looked up, I remembered what I'd seen. The layers, the depth, the shape behind the sun, the watchers at the edges of the frame. The sky was a painting now, and I couldn't unsee the brushstrokes. Dr. Vickers published his findings, but the world had already moved on. People didn't want to think about it anymore. The filter was restored, the crisis was over, and there were bills to pay and children to raise and lives to live. The truth was too big to carry every day. So we put it down. We looked at the beautiful fake sky and pretended we didn't know. We felt the warmth of the artificial sun and didn't ask what it really was. We watched the stars at night and ignored the fact that they were projections, that the real stars were somewhere else entirely, that we'd never seen them and probably never would. I understood why people chose not to think about it. The alternative was a kind of madness, looking at the world and seeing lies everywhere, unable to trust your own senses, knowing that the universe you perceived was a carefully constructed fiction. But I couldn't forget. I tried, but the knowledge was part of me now, woven into how I saw everything. Every sunrise was a reminder that something artificial was lighting my world. Every blue sky was a reminder that the real sky was full of watchers. Every night full of stars was a reminder that I was looking at a painting, not a window. I kept working, kept living, kept going through the motions of a normal life. But I wasn't the same person I was before the sky flickered. That person believed in the world she saw. That person trusted the evidence of her senses. That person thought humanity was alone in a vast, empty universe, reaching hopefully toward distant stars. That person was gone. In her place was someone who knew better, someone who understood that we were never alone, that the universe was never empty, that everything we saw was curated for us by something we couldn't understand. I stood at my station one evening as the sun set over Chicago. The sky turned orange, then pink, then purple. Beautiful colors, perfectly calibrated, exquisitely fake. I watched the light fade and the first stars emerge. Stars that weren't where I saw them. Stars that might not even exist. The whole universe I was looking at was a projection, a filter, a carefully managed experience. And behind it, the real universe waited, full of watchers and structures and truths I'd never be allowed to see. The filter held for now. The cage was sealed. The terrarium was restored. But I knew. Everyone knew. The sky flickered, and we saw what we weren't supposed to see. Now we lived with that knowledge, beneath a beautiful lie, waiting for the next flicker, wondering what the gardeners would do if the garden walls fell for good. Air traffic was flying again. The sky looked normal. Everything was fine. Everything was a lie. And somewhere above the false blue, something was still watching, deciding what to do with us. We were not alone. We never were. And we might never understand why they built this cage around us, what they were keeping us from, what they were keeping from us. The sky was beautiful that night. I didn't trust it anymore, but I still watched, because that's all I could do. Watch the painted sky, guide the planes through false air, live my life beneath a manufactured sun, and wait for it to flicker again. Somewhere out there, beyond the filter, the real universe continued. The crowded space, the watching observers, the structures we glimpsed for those brief seconds of truth. All of it still existed, just beyond our perception, separated from us by a technology we couldn't understand. Were they protecting us, studying us, containing us? I didn't know. I might never know. But I knew this. We weren't what we thought we were. The universe wasn't what we thought it was. And the sky, the beautiful, ordinary, comforting sky, was the biggest lie ever told. The filter held. The illusion continued. The watchers watched. And I went to work every day and guided planes through the painted sky, doing my job, living my life, carrying a truth too heavy to put down and too terrible to share. The sky flickered once. It would flicker again. And when it did, we'd see the truth once more. The crowded universe, the artificial sun, the observers who built our cage. But for now, the lie was restored. The beautiful, comfortable, necessary lie. I looked up at the stars and remembered they weren't real. And I looked down at my screens and guided another plane home. Because that's what we do. We live beneath false skies. We pretend we don't know. And we wait for the flicker that shows us the truth again. It will come. It always comes. And when it does, I'll be watching. Even though I know what I'll see. Even though I know it will hurt. Because the truth matters. Even when it's terrible. Especially when it's terrible. The sky is a lie. But I'm not. And I'll keep watching until I understand why they put us here, beneath this painted sky, in this beautiful cage. Whatever it takes, however long it takes, I'll keep watching. That's all any of us can do.